How's it going, guys? Back working on the truck today. I haven't done a ton of stuff since the last video, but I've done a little stuff here and there. One of which is replace the power steering lines, which needed it badly because their old ones were leaking and dry rotted and just was a mess. So got those changed. Changed the rear diff fluid. Everything looked good in there, aside from it not being a posi, which I want to swap in eventually. It's later down the road. Today's game plan is to swap this old quad jet for an Edelbrock 600 CFM 4-barrel. The quadjet on here is just, it's bad. The accelerator pump is bad. It leaks. I know quadjets can be good running carbs if they're tuned properly. I'm not super familiar with them, so I'm going to do a swap now and work on rebuilding it later when I have more time. But it also came with a free air filter and fuel line, which is nice. So I can replace this one, which has paint overspray on it that I'm still dealing with from the guy before trying to touch everything up. So the truck's been running like crap, really. It's gotten worse since I've bought it. It'll start up fine, but it seems like in this carb setup, it's a thermal choke, so it's bolted to the manifold. As it gets hot, that piece of metal expands and pulls the choke closed or open depending on the temperature. So the Edelbrock has an electric choke, so I'll have to wire that up, and it should run a lot better. But basically this truck will run good at speed and at throttle, but when it comes to idle, it'll just want to sputter and die, and I've tried messing with it and it just doesn't seem to want to run right. So I'm going to fire it up and let you guys take a listen. Alright, so a couple pumps, and usually starts right up. Let's see. Usually fires right up. It's running good now. It's going to start to want to choke and die if I let it run. So it's starting. Now, this is what it does. It starts up fine, then it starts to chug along like this. I don't know how well you can hear it. It sounds like it's got a cam in it. Really need to do something about that exhaust. Sounds terrible. See, just sounds like crap, and it's definitely running a little rich. It's gonna die. Let's see what a new carb. Well, there's now kind of smooth out, but it always seems to change. Sometimes it'll run good, sometimes it'll run like crap. Sometimes it'll run fine, I'll be driving, but then I'll stop it too light and it'll want to sputter and die. So I'm tired of dealing with that. I want the truck to be more reliable and run good, so see what we can do. Alright, and here's the current quadjet just sitting on there. You can tell it's just nasty looking. So I took the fuel line off, and I'm gonna start getting it off here. I got the carb and forgot to pick up the adapter kit to put it on a stock manifold, which again I want to put on an aftermarket one, a better one. But for now I'm just swapping the carb, so picked up a kit with all the stuff I need. I got the old carb off and it is nasty. who knows how long it's been, but it's just full of gunk, and I mean, this is just so covered in crap. It's bad, and looks like it's been leaked. I mean, it's nasty looking. Ooh, and there's rusty crap coming out, and see the intake. Put some clean rags in there because I'm gonna vacuum out all the crap that's gathered in there, because it doesn't look like this is, I mean, who knows when this was ever off, but you gotta get that cleaned up, then work on getting the adapter kit set up. Alright, I decided I was gonna do some polishing on the truck to see what I could do with this paint. If you look over here, this is pretty much what the whole truck looks like. You can hear it, it's real faded and dry, and you know, has no shine to it at all. And I just felt like seeing what I could do with it, so I just you can see over here I've actually done some already. I don't know how well it'll show up, but it actually cleans up surprisingly nice and has a nice shine to it. So I've just kind of been, I'm not doing the white painted parts yet because I need to clean up that rust before I polish it. So I'm just doing the orange, but it actually, like I said, I don't know how much it shows up, but you can see it's kind of shining there. So I've done this whole side of the orange, and I'm pretty happy. It's got this, I don't know how this guy touched the paint up, but there's like some darker colored, like a red, and it's just like barely like it's just kind of on there. I don't know how he just lightly spray painted or what, but it's got this, it's all over the truck. It's like he just took a spray can and fogged a bunch of areas. I actually think it looks kind of cool when it's polished out. I don't know, it's unique. So I'm just going to see how well I can clean this thing up and see what it looks like, but I'll let you guys know once I've got the whole thing done. Alright, picking up from where we left off. Carb swap is done. So it's a Edelbrock. It's a 1406. It's a 600 CFM carb. So it's been running well. I've been driving it around, doing some fine tuning, but it's running really well. Way better than it did before. It starts right up. No issues so far. Had one little fuel leak. I adjusted this. I'm going to do something different because I don't like how it looks. I'd like to get a hard line with an inline filter, something that looks a little nicer. But for now, this works fine. Just had to cut the original hard line that went up to the front of the quad jet, put on a press fitting so I could go from that line to rubber and then run it over to the carb. So, but it's been running really well. Other stuff I've been doing, I've been cleaning up the paint. So I don't know how it's going to show. I did some wet sanding this side. I don't know if it's seen real easily in the last video, but this all was just like surface rust, and it just looked really crappy. You can see it cleaned up the rust. I don't know, the guy like touched it up with a bunch of little stuff, so there's all these little chips down to the paint below the white. But it still looks 10 times better than it did, and I waxed it to protect it, so that is still not good, but I'm just trying to get all the rust while I can, you know, overall, then I can go back and fix stuff better, but I'm just trying to get overall done. You can see the paint was, I may have got a little aggressive. I cleaned up all the rust, but you can kind of see the orange paint coming through it. But like I said, the paint on this truck is not great. But I also waxed all the orange parts of the truck, so you can kind of see the shine there. So it shined up. You know, I'm happy with how it came out. I still need to do the top, the hood. Like I said, I wet sanded this whole side, all the white, and cleaned it up best I could, and it definitely looks better. Still got to do some more on this side, but you can kind of see the difference here. So the door I did, and and it was basically the whole thing looked like that. Just this coating of rust over the whole thing. So this, I'm pretty happy with how the driver's door came out. And again, this is the ugliest part of the truck here. Well, there was the worst rust that I had to sand down and primer just to protect it in the meantime. Very ugly. This kind of sucks that this looks like this, but it's better than it rusting away. So I'm going to do the same thing here, sand it, wet sand it, and clean up best that I can, just so it looks a little better. But I'm pretty happy just as a general cleanup how it turned out. So that definitely looks better than that. So I'll pick up where I'm done and see how it looks. Alright, back on the truck. Today we're swapping the water pump. I picked this one up from Jig's. It's super nice, about half the weight. There's one that's aluminum. Got it all painted up the other day, so it came out pretty good. You can see in here, this one is real nasty looking, and you can hear how loose the bearing is, so it makes all kind of racket when it's running. So let's get it out and swap in the new one. Alright, got some stuff out of the way, got the fan shroud and fan off, and now you can kind of get you can kind of hear that, but it's definitely bad, so that's what will make that grinding sound. So now I'm going to clean up around the front of the engine block so none of that crap gets in the engine. See, there's a bunch of gunk build up, so get the alternator bracket out of the way and the power steering pump out of the way, and we'll get things cleaned up. Alright, I got the water pump off. Right now I'm working on cleaning the mating surfaces, which I don't know if you can tell. The gasket's basically fused to the block, so they're being a real pain getting them off, but we'll get that all cleaned up, so when the new gaskets go on there, they'll seal properly, and we'll be good to go. Alright, well, I got those surfaces cleaned up. That gasket that's been on there since the factory was totally just melted onto it, basically, so got it. It looks like it's not clean, but it is. It's just like the discoloration, but got them nice and clean and totally smooth. So when we put on the new gaskets, it will seal properly. So let's get that water pump back on. Alright, got the new water pump in. A couple things. When using an aftermarket water pump from, say, like Jig's, it wasn't quite exactly the same as the one stock. So if you look here, there's a spacer that they gave, because the distance from the mount on the water pump to the bracket for the alternator, this is farther forward on this one, so I had to go buy a longer bolt for this, so it would go all the way through that spacer and then bolt through the back where it has the mount on the water pump. And then down here, it's kind of hard to see, but that bolt that connects the power steering bracket to the water pump. Also, the area where it goes through on the water pump on here is a full thread, whereas on the original one it didn't have any threads in it, so it had this type of bolt where it's not threaded all the way up, so you're able to slide it in. But in this case, because it's threaded all the way through, I had to get a bolt that had threads all the way up to the head of the bolt. I just put a washer on there as well. So those are two things that will need to be done if you're doing the same kind of change. So now I'm going to get the fan on. Make sure I do that before actually I got to put the shroud in first, because there's not enough room to get the shroud around the fan, at least not in what I tried. So get that on and get the fan on next. Alright, here's, guys, the last part of this video. Got everything finally waxed. The hood's done, the top's done, and more importantly, water pump in. Running awesome. Doesn't make that grinding sound anymore. I'm going to crank it up so you guys can see it. But I've been driving it for a couple days, checking for leaks, make sure everything's good. So far, no problems. But I'll keep checking it to make sure. But so far, so good. Let's see if it starts. Park it course, I can't see where I'm going. I didn't close the hood. Alright. It's really good. Belts are nice and straight. So I'll have the governor turned out. And stay tuned for the next video, because there's a million more things I want to do with this truck, and this won't be the last one. So I'm going to keep chugging away at it and keep making this truck better.